Hello, Bambaji here with another Sungate transit. And this is a long one, so you might want to get yourself a cup of tea and sit comfortably. This is gate 44 on October the 30th at 13:39 GMT. Remember, we're in GMT now. We have gate 44, which is called Coming to Meet the Gate of Alertness. So you can see in the picture here, the mandala wheel, we have the body graph there in the middle, the triangle on the left hand side with the black line, that is the splenic center showing us where gate 44 is, and then the green triangle towards the top there with a little tiny black line coming out of the top middle, that is the grounding in gate 24. So we have tribal circuitry for gate 44 and we have individuality for gate 24. Gate 44 is what we're focusing on today, though, and this, as I said, is called Coming to Meet. And it's the last of the splenic gates that the sun goes through each year in its journey around the wheel. Thank goodness. It'd be nice to get out of splenic season. I get a little shiver when I realise that the sun is only going to make this journey twice more in our current cycle. By the time we reach splenic season 2027, the background frequency will have changed. That's something to think about, really, isn't it? It's that time of transition is coming really quickly, and we don't know what it's going to mean. There's not much point speculating on it, although it's really fun to speculate on it. But anyway, let's focus on gate 44. That's where we are right now. So it is pointing up the channel to its harmonic, which is gate 26, which is in the ego. 26 is called the taming power of the great. Together, they form the channel of surrender, a design of a transmitter. The 44 sits at the end of the quarter of duality. It's the last gate in duality. The next sun transit that we have is going to take us into the quarter of mutation. So we've just left gate 28. This is the gate of the risk taker. And the sixth line has that perspective of being able to see what could possibly be of value, whether life itself is of value. And in finding that value, then having the awareness that it has to be incorporated into our material way. This is the 28 individuality leading directly here into the tribe in gate 44. Above the lines, it says the success of any interaction is based on the absence of any preconditions. This is an essential point to grasp about the 44. The 44th gate, being a splenic gate, is a spontaneous gate. If you've got a defined splenic center, at least. Don't go being spontaneous if you've got an open splenic center. But it is prepared to deal with the existential now. And it's at its best when it's alert in the now rather than being prejudiced. The 44th gate cannot decide beforehand whether it likes or dislikes the ego at the other end of the channel. It can only know in the moment, and that's its gift. So the theme of this gate really is conditions, or the absence of any preconditions. So the way in which the 44 deals with the ego is by learning that you cannot interact with ego beings if you bring preconceptions to the table. They won't accept it. This is something for everyone who has to deal with a defined ego being in their life to understand. The 44 learns this through the foundation of the hexagram. The first line has a lifetime learning that says the establishment of frameworks as a result of interaction. This gate of alertness is alert to the fact that it is required to have interaction in its life. The 44 is a very powerful nose gate. And it's not just about the ability to be able to smell concretized aromas. Much like the 32, it's in the same stream, the stream of instinct. The 44th gate has the ability to smell success or to smell a rat. This is lymphatic smelling. If you have any if you have any activations in this stream that run from the 54 in the root up to the 26 in the ego, then don't be distracted by any strong aromas that could cloud your senses. If you're making a business deal and someone is puffing their cigar smoke into your face, you are not going to have a clean deal with them because you won't be able to smell them correctly. And if you can't smell them, you're not alert to them. This also means you're better off yourself, not shrouding yourself in perfumes or aftershaves. Don't make any important decisions in an incense-filled room or sitting beside the kitchen in a restaurant. You need to be clear to be able to smell the other. Which doesn't mean you have to go up and sniff them, although I mean, that could be fun. It depends. It could not. But you do need that space around you in terms of clean air, clear air, so that you can tap into your sense of alertness. All the splenic gates have a deep primal fear. We know this by now. And the fear here is the fear of the past. And that is actually the fear of extinction. That's how it really plays out. The alertness that is there, because of this fear that is driving it, everything disturbs the 44. That's what you find with this alertness. Everything that has happened to it in its lifetime is remembered, and it is stored as that fear of the past. And so it will be alerted to anything that smells remotely like that again. And yet at the same time, it has not to be prejudiced until the actual moment of truth, which is the moment of spontaneous encounter. So it's quite a balancing act, holding that memory, but not allowing it to influence where you are at the moment. The tribe has a deep social mechanism to it. The 44th gate is tribal. And so one of its main keynotes is support, just like all of tribal circuitry. It is rooted in support, and it is through its ability to be able to support the work of the ego that it is able to provide the ego with an outlet, giving it the structure that it needs. This is the transmission. The 44 is very important because the work that it does is for the benefit of the tribe. It has the capacity to be able to interact with the ego, and it understands that the only conditions that can ever be established are after the interaction has been founded. The 44th gate is the personnel manager. It is the gate of manipulation, and it has the ability to be able to work with the ego. This is the only direct connection between the splenic system and the heart center, or the ego. It is the only direct connection between the spleen's immune system and the T cells that operate out of the 26th gate, which tells us that this channel has enormous importance in terms of our well-being. And so much of that well-being is dependent on the ability of the 44 to be able to deal correctly with that egoic 26 at the other end of the channel. The 26th gate is the gate of marketing. It's the gate of salesmanship. And often we think that it operates on its own, but in fact, it's when it is in the whole channel that it operates most effectively. The 26 on its own can be seen as a bit of a hustler. It's the wide boy, it's the archetypal used car salesman. But when the 44-26 is selling, then there's a resonance of honesty. There is a power of transmission that goes way beyond the ability that's inherent in a hanging or dormant 26 to just break down the door and do anything to get the sale. The personnel manager always has to surrender to the financial officer's decision. The 32nd hexagram, that's the financial officer, and the heading we'll remember there is the only thing that endures is change. And when you come to the heading of the 44, you have this, the success of any interaction is based on the absence of any preconditions. So we have no preconditions. There is the instinctive memory of what is necessary, which will simply respond in the now to the right relationship, to the interaction, in order to fulfill the transformation. If you're somebody with the 44th gate in a defined splenic center, the key for you in your relationships with others is not to bring any preconditions. And not to insist that there are any preconditions, but to deal with everyone openly in terms of how you interact with them. And through the interaction, you'll be able to see what is possible in terms of conditions and arrangements that can be made. If you have the 44 in an undefined splenic system, it can be difficult because the undefined splenic system holds on to things that are not good for it. And it will hold on to many fears about the past that are not healthy for it. And it is because it is going to operate inconsistently, it's when it is defined by the program or by the other, that person with the 44 then in the open center, then they're going to have the tendency to let go of the very things that are actually good for them. The relationships that are beneficial, the interactions that are of value. And they will insist on holding on to conditions or imposing conditions that will immediately negate the potential of any interaction that might be available for them. We have a very complex memory circuit running through our form. And here in the 44th gate, it is the basis of cellular memory that is stored in the water of the cells. Ra said that if there is no activation in the entire stream, which runs from the 54 in the root to the 26 in the ego, then later in life there could be serious problems with memory and memory loss. This is a pure gate of instinct, which means that the first and second lines, which are instinctive themes just of themselves, they represent the deepest cellular memory that you're going to find in a human being. So people with these activations have a very rich, spontaneous memory system. As we've been going through these splenic gates, I've been talking a little bit about streams. They are actually awareness streams. That's how they're more correctly called. They're made up of two channels, one on either side of an awareness center, and that awareness center might be the ajna, it might be the solar plexus, or like here in the splenic center. They're all the awareness centers. A stream starts with a fuel, with a pressure, so that's always going to be the root or the head. And then it moves into the potential of the stream, and the potential crosses the awareness center to become a possibility on the other side, and then it moves into expression. And the stream is usually expressed, at least for the collective and the individual, those streams are expressed through the throat. There are two tribal streams, and they are expressed or manifested through the ego. They might ultimately get to the throat because there is that 2145 that leads from the ego to the throat, but the stream kind of officially ends in the ego. So when we're looking at the 32nd gate, the potential in this stream of instinct, this is where we found the potential to recognize what can be transformed or not. Once the 32nd gate says, I'm going to spend my money on it, this is that financial officer, then at that moment, the 44th gate is ready to take that in and store it as memory. It stores what that is and it works on it. And when it is stored as a memory in the 44th gate, then there is an awareness that the 26 will be able to carry it out. After all, the 44 can't do it on its own. The splenic system is not a motor. The 44 is the possibility only. It is looking for the ego. It's looking for that willpower at the other end of the channel in order to fulfill or express whatever this transformation potential is. It is one thing for the 54 in the root there to come up with the energy for the transformation. And it's another thing for the 32 to say, all right, let's commit some funds to this. And it is another thing again for the 44 to go looking for the right ego. But this is the path of this stream. It has to get out there and manifest in the end. The awareness possibility in the 44 is the osmotic regulator. This is the cellular memory. This is the water balance. It is where cellular memory is at its deepest. And this is not a memory that can be called up. It's not a mental memory, but also the 26 has the ability to manipulate memory, so it can call it through, and it can do that, has that ability within its structure. The memory in the 44 is available instinctively in the moment. And it is there to recognize which is the right ego and which isn't, in terms of being able to fulfill the possibility and the potential of the transformation that's coming up through the channel of transformation. It is that, it's a really powerful force here in this stream. It's called instinct, and it's all about transformation. The 4426 is the channel of the entrepreneurial enterprise. It's a mirror to the 3740, actually, but where the channel of community is socialist, the channel of surrender is capitalist. This is the instinct and memory to transmit one's ego to the tribe. The 37th gate offers social loyalty and access to the tribal fridge in return for the promise of benefits from the ego's willpower. The 44th gate offers individual loyalty and access to its memory resources in return for the ego's strength to soften its fears of the past. The stream of instinct, being able to smell, this stream of memory, it's actually about making money. Remember the 32 and the 44 as awareness gates in a non-motorized splenic center. They don't have any energy. They haven't got any money. They haven't got any juice. They have the awareness, though, to know what to do with it. And that's an instinctive awareness in there. It's not a prejudicial awareness. I don't usually talk about incarnation crosses too much as I'm going through these, but I'm going to make an exception here because gate 44 is part of the right angle cross of the four ways, a cross which has a special importance in the Global Incarnation Index. When we look at the mechanics of the mandala, we find that it is divided into quarters. You've heard me talk about that. We've been in the quarter of duality for the last 16 gates. So the four quarters are also four realms, they're called. And each quarter begins with a gate of the Sphinx, and the Sphinx is a direction gate, so that's giving it that direction. There's a vessel of love gate in the middle, and then it always ends, every quarter ends with a gate of the four ways. So each quarter has its direction, its love, and its way. Gate 44 is the last gate of the quarter of duality. It closes out this quarter. And this is the way called coming to meet, the gate of alertness. This is the way of duality. We have to meet the ego. We have to know how to work with the ego. Duality is all about bonds. It's purpose fulfilled through bonds, through intimacy. So we have to know how to work with the other. Ra said of all the four ways, this is the only way that is truly healthy, because the ego has that deep connection to the splenic system through this channel. When you think about the relationship between the splenic center and the heart center, this is the only place that they meet. The thymus gland sits in the 26th gate, and our lymphatic system is rooted in the 44th gate. This is where the ego bows down to the splenic center, to the health that is in there, to the possibility of the health that is there. Out of these two gates, we have our basic protective system. B cells are produced in the 44th gate, and T cells are produced in the 26th gate. Together, they form the healthiest channel that we have. And we know we live in a binary, so you can fill in the other bit on your own. But what's interesting here, this gate that is all about making money, it's a very material gate. It tells us that the healthiest way is the material way. The Earth Gate, grounding the sun in 44, is Gate 24, and it is called Returning, the Gate of Rationalization. This is a gate in the Ajna Center, and it is in individuality. Above the lines, it says the natural and spontaneous process of transformation and renewal. So transformation is a word that we have heard quite a lot already in this overview, and it is a word that comes back here in the grounding. As we work through the lines, we will get a sense of how Gate 24 supports and grounds into Gate 44. We'll work through that as we look through all the lines. Thank you very much for joining me with this overview, and it's a really fascinating gate, the 44. I'm looking forward to going through the lines, and I hope you will join me for those if it is correct for you to do so. Yeah, so that's it. I will see you very shortly. And until then, as always, go gently.